let's get into some Texas versus Texas Tech discussion just a little bit, especially on a short week. We're from Sark. He does give an update, but he talked about a lot of kind of in-depth macro topics at the media availability. As my man E mentioned, he was very long-winded, was in a mood to talk. So he talked about a lot of different things. But first, let's hear about him talking about the Texas Tech game and the upcoming matchup. He spoke about how Texas Tech has shifted their offensive philosophy and they've become a more run-centric team. Yes, still an air raid team, but they've become a run-centric team. More so out of circumstance than anything else, right? Out of necessity. They had a lot of injuries at quarterback. Offensive line had pass protection issues, and Taj Brooks is their best offensive weapon. As a matter of fact, Sark was asked about Taj Brooks, the running back from Texas Tech, and here's what Sark had to say.
Well, yeah, great contact balance. Taj Brooks, the first guy has a hard time getting him down, and it's not always because of the elusiveness. It's his ability to absorb blows and stay on his feet and then continue to break tackles, get hard yards. They're a physical running football team. I think naturally you think of Tech, and if you're not watching them, they're running the ball. They're all spread out, and they're running, zone read, and nobody's tackling the guy, and he's running. They're running up, and they're running gap schemes, and they're running downhill. It's a physical brand of football that they're playing, and they still do it with tempo, and so you have to get yourself aligned. But I do think there's been definitely a shift, philosophical shift that Joey has implemented to that team that is the physical brand of football offensively that is playing to their defense. They've got a very good defense, and so those two things working together has shifted. They're not playing 48, 45 games and each team's running 100 plays. They beat Kansas 16-13 a couple weeks ago. They beat UCF 24-23, but they're winning games with that philosophy and that style, and so you have to adjust accordingly. But it all goes back to their ability to run the ball with Taj, and he's a heck of a player.
I mean, they are running the football. I mean, these are the numbers for Tech running the football since the Baylor game. So 6-game sample size here. 42, 30, 43, 42, 44, 29. So essentially they've run the ball at least 40 times in 4 of the last 6 games. Yeah, and by the way, they're not running it all that successfully. They're basically in those games. Just talking about, if you go look at it, they're averaging over 4 yards per rush in 3 of those games. That was it. That's 3 of the last 6 games. They've averaged over 4 yards. They've averaged 6.5 yards per rush versus UCF. A little over 3 yards per rush. Under 3.5 yards per rush versus TCU and Kansas. 3. It looks like they were at 3, right at 3.5 yards per rush versus BYU. It's not a dominant running attack. I think it's kind of just helps them control the game a little bit, and it lets them funnel usage to their best offensive weapon, which is Taj Brooks. But like I said, they're not a dominant running team. K-State was a top 5 running team in the country when they came in here with dual threat quarterbacks and a competent run game and a better offensive line. Way better offensive line. And Texas shut them down, and they had their worst rushing output in a game since 2014. That's the K-State. K-State's easily the second most physical team in the Big 12. Way more physical than Texas Tech. And you just held Iowa State on the road to 9 total rushing yards, and that's a team that wants to run the football too. Iowa State's just as good at running the football. They don't have a Taj Brooks, but in terms of overall team effectiveness, in terms of running the football, they're probably just as effective as Texas Tech is. It's just a weird shift in philosophy for Texas Tech, but I know it's not a necessity. It's not what they want to be. It's what they need to be in order to survive.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is styles make fights, and this is a good style for Texas, a good matchup, because they've shifted to kind of doing what Texas is trying to do, right? Just run the ball, be real physical. They got the 2 big tackles up front, like Texas does. And this is Joey McGuire. Realize I mentioned this earlier, but Joey McGuire now, in 7 career games coaching at Texas Tech in November, he's 6-1. And the only loss came last year to a team that played for the national championship in TCU, and it was a close game. So this is what we talk about with these high school coaches. They keep fixing problems. They just keep solving it. Let's try this. Let's try this. There's not which is what good coaching is. But at the same time, you're not a finished product. And Joey McGuire knows how to coach and knows how to get the most out of his personnel. And, it's led to them switching to Baron Morton's, the quarterback. And, Tyler Shuck has entered the portal and essentially said, look, this is how we're going to have to win games. As Sark just said, we may not be successful running the ball, but we're protecting our good defense right now.
Yep.
We're helping them not have to, play as many snaps and get tired by the end of the football game. So give Joey McGuire that, and he comes in here knowing he's overmatched, because I do think if you take the boxing analogy, if styles make fights, Texas is right now a heavyweight, and Texas Tech's kind of a middleweight trying to punch up, and so that's kind of a challenge. But we'll see. I like the game. It's a 14-point line. There's a reason Texas is 13.5 to 14 points favorite at home. Night should be a real good crowd. And looking forward to seeing this game. But and obviously the Longhorns should be completely focused on Texas Tech based on last year's loss. And by the way, somebody said talking about the tush push and the Eagles and how they start 1st and 9, and they can go for it on fourth down line. Joey McGuire's going to go for it on 4th down. They're not.
Yes,
they're going to try to extend drives.
Why not?
Why not?
It worked last year for you. You might need to break it out again. I'm with you on that 100%. And I think that there's a possibility, even though they have been a very run-oriented team, run-centric team in the last 5 weeks, I do think against Texas, if they're just watching film, I think they may come out and pass first and run lots of slant routes. Running the traditional run game it hasn't worked against Texas. Nobody's been able to run it in a traditional way. Bama did for a quarter.
2.8 yards per carry in conference play allowed.
Yeah, TCU did it for like a couple of series in the second half. But, you guys can remember off the top of your head how many teams ran the football handing off the ball against Texas, because it hasn't happened a lot.
Yeah.
So, I think they're going to throw it. I think they're going to come out. Not throw it a lot. They're not going to abandon the running game, but I think it's a fool's errand to just try to run the football against Texas.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Baron Morton, let's not forget, and we've heard from our friend Craig Flowers from the High Ground. He works at those aired out camps, the quarterback camps out in West Texas. And Baron Morton's is a disciple of that, the aired out camp. So he knows the air raid. He can throw it. He can spin the rock, and they've got some decent receivers. They may have to alter their attack here, having gotten to this point, won 3 games in a row. Maybe knowing against a heavyweight, you're going to have to maybe go back to some of the older stuff if you're going to move the football in this game. And I would say too that Joey McGuire's familiar with a lot of the players on this roster, because he was coaching high school football when in the Metroplex, a lot of these guys were coming through. And when he got to Baylor, he talked about yesterday at his news conference how he recruited Byron Murphy. Because Dallas was his territory. He came to Baylor from Cedar Hill, so he recruited the Metroplex when he got to Baylor.
All those guys.
So he knows a lot of this. He knows this personnel, and he likes it. He thinks they're really good, but doesn't mean you can beat them. He knows them. He's familiar with the players.
There's even a report that he reached out and communicated with Sark after Sark's win.
Yeah.
K-State.
Yeah, after Alabama. He texted him after the Alabama win and the K-State win.
It was both of the wins. Yeah,
congratulated him.
Which I thought was kind of weird that he reached out to him after that. Very good for him, though. He texted Coach Sarkisian.
Yeah. Ty, can we play? I know, Rod. Can we play Can we play Sark's thought on Brett Yormark while we were talking about him? In here behind the burnt orange curtain, just for folks so they can hear. This is Sark taking the high road on the Brett Yormark conversation, which a lot of people are going to talk about this week. The comments he made at the booster function last summer will be played quite a bit between now and kickoff. Here was Sark yesterday when asked about the commissioner's comments.
There was nothing to smooth over. For me, we've been on this kick here for months now. This whole situation, us leaving the Big 12, our players didn't choose to leave the Big 12, right? They came to play for the University of Texas. What conference we're in, that's not what our players. They're just choosing to put on the burnt orange and white and run out of the tunnel. And so whether the commissioner's rooting against our players to win or not, or we're in the SEC or we're in the Big 12, at the end of the day, our guys just want to play good football and they want to win. And so we've tried to consume ourselves with what we need to do. As you guys have heard me say, we need to be enamored with us, and that's something that we've done. And that's been our focus. And I think that's why our players have been so poised and so composed, even on the road, as we go on the road and the success we've had there, says we haven't gotten caught up in what's going on outside. We've really tried to quiet the noise. We've really tried to stay focused on one another and how we can continue to support one another. And so, for the commissioner, we've had plenty of conversations, and he is coming. I got a chance to see him. He was in Ames Saturday night. He'll be here Friday. And I'm hopefully we put on a heck of a show for him. That's what I want. He's a commissioner of our conference, and I'm hopeful that when he watches us play, he's proud of the way that we play and representing the Big 12, because that's the conference we're in right now.
Yeah, there's the high road.
Classy. Yeah, it was a classy comment from Sark. Hope he's proud. I don't know if he's proud. I'm sure.
Well, no. Here's what I would say though. For Brett Yormark, who, as he just said, live where your feet are, it would be good for his current conference if Texas made it to the final.
Oh no, it is.
They'd make a lot of money. They'd make a lot of money.
It's good for the money, but it's not good for the optics.
Sure.
The optics are the teams that you brought into the conference are performing poorly,
right? And
the teams that are leaving your conference right now, they're the blue bloods, that they're the ones who are the cash cows, and they're on their way out. So I'm just saying, optics wise, it's not a great look. Yeah, you get money, you get the money, but
and because right now his conference, Brett Yormark has one team that could play in the Final Four, and that's Texas. So there's almost the idea that, but that's look. Show me the money, man.
Yeah,
that's revenue for all the teams,
and
you can't do anything about them leaving. And there is an opportunity, just like then you'd have back-to-back years with a team in the Final Four out of the Big 12.
Yeah, but like I said, it's kind of like you can celebrate that if you want to, but we all know that's not good for you, Big 12. It's not good for the future prospects.
I'm just saying the rest of the conference would celebrate the cash flow income.
Oh yeah, of course they'll celebrate the money, but I'm just saying for the future relevance of the conference, it's not good. They wanted one of their other representatives to be as good, if not better, than Texas. And that's not the case.
Well, so far, I'm right. And most likely they're going to have a different representative that's playing Texas in the Big 12 title.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Which would be a good thing. Good for theater.